Welcome to Zero Waste Asia Newsroom. I'm Sonia Astudillo, Senior Communications Officer for GAIA Asia Pacific, reporting live from Ottawa, Canada. Joining me is our Plastic Officer, Arpita Bhagat. Hi, Arpita. It's just past 9 a.m. here, and we're about to delve into today's session and at the conference. But before we do, let's reflect on the key points from day 2. So, Arpita, how was yesterday's INC and what is expected today?
Well, yesterday's INC went more smoothly than expected. We had the discussion in the two contact groups, and then we went into subgroups. So contact group 1, which is on the core obligations, split into the subgroups, and there was discussion on the text on the part 1, which is preamble, objective, and scope. And in the evening, they discussed principles, I believe. In contact group 2, there was discussion on financial mechanism. It was not complete, so we see the continuation of that to happen today. And there was discussion on national action plans, and followed by discussion on compliance in the second subgroup. And we have the tentative agenda for today, which is going to probably continue. So today, again, we are going to have discussions in the subgroups in the first half till 6 p.m. and then a short resuming of contact groups, the bigger groups, and then followed by, again, continuation of the subgroups. So, so far it has been more smooth than we expected. Of course, we had the streamlined text come out from both the report from contact group 1 subgroups, the yesterday morning, which became the basis for financial mechanism discussion. And then for contact group 2, I think people were waiting till very late. It was supposed to, the report was supposed to be up by 4, but it eventually, I think, came around 6:30, and then the actual subgroup discussion started at 7 and went on till 10:30. And in terms of course, these are all protected under Chatham House rules, but we had some interesting things happen. There was many countries who reminded us of the need to have comprehensive life cycle approach to have production cuts. But there were also those countries who, interestingly, were asking for just transition for plastics and just transition for microplastics and things like, this treaty is about plastic pollution and not plastic production and things like this is a treaty which therefore needs to be focused on plastic leakage and not on the rest. And I believe that one particular country talked about the life cycle should be about life cycle of plastic pollution and not plastic, which is strange because everybody who has agreed, 175 nations agreed to the mandate, the resolution 5/14, which is very clear about this being the mandate being to negotiate a legally binding instrument through the comprehensive approach of plastic life cycle. And plastic life cycle, we know, starts at extraction, ends at disposal. So, of course, the same divide between the countries who want a downstream focused treaty versus a country who want to address plastic pollution across life cycle continues. In terms of the financial mechanism, there was a divide you could see between developing countries and developed countries, with some countries asking for special consideration of the most affected small island developing states and downstream countries and so on. But of course, because, if we only have the division of developed and developing, it will provide funds to some of the polluting countries, right, in how it is defined currently. And therefore, it is this is going to be a tense moment, this particular provision. We also had some countries calling for a new dedicated fund, some countries calling for a hybrid approach, some countries pushing back against the proposal for plastic pollution fee, which basically holds the polluters accountable and the funding to come from polluters via a global plastic pollution fee. Some strong resistance coming from some countries who obviously are more closer to industry than we'd like them to be. So that was expected. In the discussion against on national action plan, there was again some breakup between national action plan, national implementation plan. Somebody proposed national plans, and then it was about national plans. In compliance, some countries wanted to wait till the core obligations are discussed to have compliance discussion. Some countries again pushed common but differentiated responsibilities and capabilities a lot in both of these contact groups, which was not unexpected, but it's going to be continuing thread which will divide the countries, because basically the idea is that the countries which have produced the most plastics should be held accountable. Countries which are generating the most plastic waste should be held accountable. So a lot of interesting conversations. The reports from both of these, we had the streamlined text on just transition. We have the streamlined text on objective, which are up. The mention of waste pickers is not in the main chapter, but it is in the following provisions. But the way it looks like just transition looks like right now, it seems like a reasonably balanced approach, but more discussion needs to happen on what that actually means. Sadly, but not unexpectedly, because there is so much text to negotiate, observers do not have the space to make interventions, which is making some of us not very happy. But that's kind of also important, because we want to get through the text and have actual negotiations proceed. So there's a lot of interesting stuff happening here. A lot of good statements coming out. Some surprisingly good statements coming out. So there is a lot of optimism right now surrounding the negotiations. And today's schedule, again, we are going to have discussions on subgroups to continue into the next sort of provisions, and also hopefully come together for a small contact group discussion, but no plenary expected today either. Sonia.
So Arpita, GAIA's briefer on the economic benefits of phasing out plastic came out today. Can you give us some highlights, and why is this report or briefer very important?
Yeah, it is very, very important because, well, it's a very short briefer that we put together only in the last few weeks. And my colleague Doon Moon has put a lot of effort into producing this. And essentially, the reason we produce is because a lot of the countries, especially developing countries, were calling for the need to continue to produce plastics to meet their development goals, to have high GDP, for poverty alleviation, and many such arguments. And essentially, the briefer, we are trying to make strong case of the economic benefits from stopping plastic pollution, plastic production, by demonstrating the economic cost of plastic pollution, because we realize that's sometimes what the delegations, what the people understand. So we are using that language, and we also made an attempt to highlight the opportunities for job creation, for business, for building justice-oriented growth models that phasing out plastics would do, through reuse centers, through implementation of building stronger local economies and so on. So this briefer is just out just like half an hour before. So there's a lot of insight there that talks about the cost and the opportunities from stopping pollution, plastic production. And it also, I think, reminds us of a very important thing that we need to tell ourselves again and again, that just about 10 countries globally make up the 75% of global production of plastics. So that is a very, very important point that tells us that it's a handful of countries who are trying to block the discussion on production to prevent production from becoming the mainstay of this treaty. And these countries include China, USA, India, South Korea, and Saudi Arabia. These are a few of the countries that are making the 10 top countries. And yeah, it reminds us of the most of the nations here are actually in support of production reduction and actually would like to see a treaty that truly encompasses full life cycle of plastic.
So, Arpita, we read yesterday that the industry lobbies has increased by 36% this time around. How is this shaping up the negotiations?
We lost you for a few seconds. Sonia, could you repeat that?
Okay, so we read yesterday that the industry lobbies has increased by 36% from INC-3. How is this shaping up the negotiations?
Yeah, so yesterday the provisional list of participants came out, I think yesterday morning, and the Center for International Environmental Law, much like they did in the last INC, put together a brief report with a brief analysis to kind of take account of the industry lobbyists in the INC-4 negotiations. And according to this analysis, there is a 37% increase from INC-3. And INC-3 also had a percentage of increase, but I think that was around 32. Now we are saying 36, 37, which is much higher. So there are 196 lobbies from fossil fuel and chemical industry who are registered, and this outnumbers the combined representatives from European Union delegation. So that's how big it is, and these are the official lists. There are potentially a lot more, and we've seen this with the kind of marketing and advertising ploy that's going, around Shaw Center in the neighborhood with their messaging everywhere, with calling for, plastic saves life, plastic is important for healthcare, plastic is important for hygiene of food, and a lot of other nonsense which we know is not true. So 16 lobbies for the fossil fuel and chemical industry registered across 9 different country delegations, including 4 in Malaysia, 3 in Thailand, 2 in Iran, and the Dominican Republic, and 1 each in China, Kuwait, Kazakhstan, Turkey, and Uganda. So this is very clear indication of what we are dealing with, the kind of politics that's going on here, the kind of stronghold of influence that the industry has. And in the last 3-4 days, Ottawa is literally sort of colored with their advertisements everywhere. So this is not surprising, but this really, once again reminds us of the need for a conflict of interest policy. And if folks remember, there was a letter that the movement circulated which called for a strong conflict of interest policy, and we've been doing that since INC-1. So far, we've not seen any progress on that, but it's really, really important to call this out and to call out how it conflicts with the global public interest, and especially how this is injustice to the affected communities, the frontline community and the fence line communities who struggle for resources to participate in these meetings and make their voices heard.
Given this unfolding events, the negotiations are certainly gaining momentum. How is the Asia Pacific delegation? Do you have any insights?
Yeah, so I would say in one word, better. They're getting more and more opportunities to engage with our delegates. We had a brief meeting with them again yesterday. Unfortunately, the co-chair of Asia Pacific, at least till yesterday, which is Jordan, couldn't make it to Ottawa yet. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do that, but Japan co-chaired that meeting where a lot of our members made very strong pointers. There were also presentations from members of the scientific coalition for a strong plastic treaty. I'm sorry, Scientist Coalition for an Effective Plastic Treaty, to basically provide the evidence that, you know, member states are need to make substantial arguments against in favor of phasing out plastics production, the need for eliminating toxic chemicals, and really again highlighting that climate and plastic crisis are very strongly interlinked, and we need to recognize that, which some delegates refuse to still do so. We are also trying to have bilaterals with our advocates from different countries. There are interesting trends, but I'm glad that even from the civil society point of view, we are growing as in presence. We have more people, more and more civil society members from GAIA joining. So this time we have members from Thailand, members from Republic of Korea, a larger delegation from China, and the Philippines, and of course Indonesia. This one sole representative from Malaysia who's a powerhouse. I don't need to name her, it's Wong Pui. But yeah, our members are making strong statements everywhere. Yesterday there was an event, official event that Yurun Ismawati from Nexus 3 was invited to, where she also made a strong presentation. I think it was about women's role in combating plastic pollution. There was also a Minduru report coming out, I think yesterday, which briefly, if I could say, called out for remediation of not just the plastic pollution today, but remediation of all the past harms done by plastic pollution, because we are not dealing with the current problem. We are dealing with pollution which, you know, is from the last many decades, and potentially we would have plastics from, you know, 1950s and 60s still in our ecosystem many years later and for many more decades to come. So I think that is an important realization and reminder. But yeah, we are doing better. We are making strides. We are having deeper conversations with the delegates. We are going prepared with the scientific evidence. And I feel like, Sonia, if you could show the new booklet we have from for INC-4 from GAIA, we are also ensuring that our member states receive those, which talks about all of the important demands from civil society this time round and all the contentious issues.
Thank you so much, Arpita, for sharing your insights. I hope our AP delegation is getting enough sleep as well. I realized we did 2 newsrooms today because there's just so much happening here. So to our listeners, please join us again tomorrow as we continue to give updates from the Global Plastics Treaty negotiations. And again, please follow our social media, Zero Waste Asia for Instagram and YouTube, and GAIA Asia Pacific on Facebook and LinkedIn. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to giving you more updates tomorrow.
Oh, I also want to give a shout out to our communications team very quickly. One of them is celebrating their birthday today. I don't know if I'm allowed to name. And working on their birthday till the wee hours of the night in Manila. And also this time we are trying to interview more and more delegations. So yesterday we had an interview with the Vietnam delegation, which is available on our Instagram, and I hope we can also share it more widely. And this is an attempt again to kind of demonstrate the progressive voices coming from the ground. So keep tuned and let us know if you need any specific resources. And please follow our channels, please follow our content. Thank you so much.
Thank you.